Thank you for coming in. So before we get started, I just want to go over a few things. I think I sent you maybe a document that had everything that we're covering today,
Mhm.
but I just want to go over it in person before we begin our session.
Great.
Just to let you know about your rights and responsibilities and everything that this involves and entails. So I am a graduate student in the counseling program, working towards completion of a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling at Adler University. And I also have a nonviolence crisis intervention certificate and training in approaching situations with a strength-based trauma-informed approach. But since I'm a graduate student, I don't have any form of licensure currently. But as soon as I graduate, I'm planning on being licensed as an LPC through the Illinois Department of Financial and Professional Regulation. And I don't have a supervisor, but that would also happen. My supervisor currently would be like my professor at my university. So I do check in with them sometimes, if that's okay with you.
Mhm.
Um, and so I adhere to the American Counseling Association Code of Ethics, and I can send you a copy of those if you want at any point. Um, but yeah, it's just a very like straightforward code of ethics as to what we should or shouldn't be doing as counselors and therapists, and how we should conduct our work with our clients. And I approach all my clients with a humanistic theoretical orientation. So basically, that means that there's like a very, I make sure that you feel um, like you are the expert in the situation. And there's authenticity between you and I make sure to create like a safe space so that you feel comfortable sharing whatever you want to talk about. Um, and any form of therapy, including any session that we're in or currently in or will be in the future, is voluntary. So you're free to end psychotherapy sessions at any point if you don't feel like anything is working. If you're having like a change with like careers, or if you're moving somewhere, um, if you can let me know, then you won't be charged for the next session. Um, or if you don't feel like anything is working, you can feel free to tell me and I can refer you to another professional. The only time participation in psychotherapy is mandatory if it's court ordered.
Okay.
So while undergoing psychotherapy, it is possible that both clients and clinicians can uncover more about themselves than they currently know. So that means that sometimes the knowledge that we uncover can be a little bit uncomfortable and you can arise some feelings in you. But if that's the case, feel free to let me know and we can work through it together. Because I know sometimes it's really hard to uncover new feelings and uncomfortable emotions. And sometimes you might leave the office feeling a little weird, and that's okay. Um, yeah, so it takes work and it takes growth to work through counseling together, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily work for everybody. Um, so we're going to do our best, but at the same time, if you feel like it's not working for you, that's okay too. So the length of the counseling period will be determined between you and I and dependent on how therapy processes. It can be extended or ended early. I know sometimes the billing of the counseling sessions go through a third party, like your health insurance or something. And sometimes the insurance has limitations on how many sessions an individual can have. So if that's the case, we can do our best to work within um, the allotted time frame. You can just let me know ahead of time, and then we can work through the amount of sessions together. And again, you're able to withdraw anytime from the psychotherapy process upon notice. So there are also times as a counselor where I'm going to have to provide a diagnosis to the client. So that would be you. So diagnosing can help with insurance billing, and it'll also help kind of help you understand what your symptoms are or what the presenting problem is. There's not always going to be a diagnosis, but if there is, that would be helpful in coming up with a treatment plan as well. So the criterion for the diagnosis would be from the DSM, which is a Diagnostic Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. Um, so that's used worldwide and globally, which is also combined with another one that we use, which is the ICD. If that makes any sense, yeah, feel free if you have any questions. Um, so I um, like to commit myself to being on time for our sessions, but obviously there can be instances that are inevitable, such as emergencies. So in the case of emergencies, our session would be rescheduled to a later date with no fee, and I would let you know as soon as possible. But with your consent, in the case that I do go on vacation or go to a conference out of town, I would leave a copy of my notes and your file with a pre-chosen colleague, and then they would take over till I'm back.
Sure.
Yeah. And then for you, same thing goes, like under emergencies happen. So if you happen to have an emergency, just let me know as soon as you can, and we can cancel the session and reschedule at no cost.
Cool.
So our sessions usually last from about 45 to 60 minutes. And then when we're out of session, I'm usually reachable through my office number or email if you have a question. And I also understand that like for sessions, like life happens and there can be traffic or last minute things. So I usually give clients up to 10 minutes before a session to show up before the session gets canceled, and I have to charge for the no-show. But even if you give me a heads up, usually we can extend the 10-minute limit to like 15 or 20.
Okay.
So I'm just letting you know that our relationship will be strictly professional, because anything other than a professional relationship can prevent the effectiveness of the treatment. And do you know anything about the confidentiality here? I know that um, everything that happens between you and I, or everything that you tell me, will stay between you and I in this room. Um, so I occasionally take notes, or I would get your consent before taking any audio or visual recordings during the sessions, but sometimes that can happen too. But all of that will be kept confidential and not be disclosed to anyone without your consent. However, that being said, there are a couple exceptions to confidentiality. Um, so I do have a duty to warn, and that does mean that if I feel like you're going to harm yourself in a serious manner, then I would be letting the authorities know, but I wouldn't let them know without letting you know first and discussing it with you first. And of course, it's very normal to have negative feelings, or, if you have some suicidal thoughts or are feeling really low, that's totally okay. And we can talk it through. But if you have like a serious plan and an intent to go through with it, that's when I would talk it through with you and let you know that I might be letting the authorities know.
Okay.
And if there's harm to others, and I also have a duty to warn. So if you have homicidal ideation or intent, or if there's someone specific that you mentioned that I'm worried might be harmed, then I would let the authorities know in that way as well, just to protect both you and the person in mention. And I also have a duty to warn about abuse, whether that be child, elder, or animal. Um, and it's not necessarily anything to do with you. So it's kind of like if you mention something in passing, or like I think my neighbor is abusing their wife or something, and then I would call the authorities and let them know, just to do like a wellness check, but I wouldn't mention you by name or anything.
Okay.
And so sometimes confidentiality might be broken just a little bit for insurance purposes. So for billing purposes, insurance companies can ask to reach out to us to consolidate the information that they've been given, and they'll like ask for proof that sessions are happening. So in that instance, I'd give them like a short overview of the session length, minimal summary of a problem at hand, nothing specific, and like how many sessions you've had, and that would be about it.
Okay.
And sometimes if there's like a presenting problem or something that it's like out of my league, or I can consult with a colleague that I work with, and I would leave out specifics, just keep it as general as I can, um, but just to get their second opinion on it, just to get like a more expert view, if that's okay.
Sure, yeah.
So the last place that confidentiality would be perhaps broken is when there's a court order involved and the clinician is ordered to disclose information. So basically, it's kind of like the same thing as like the insurance billing, where I'd provide a short overview of the session length, a minimal summary of the problem, and how many sessions you've had. So nothing will be disclosed without your knowledge. And so All clients have the right to access their records and information. So in the case that you would like to access your records or release your information, you and I would typically have a discussion about the purpose and the intent of the release. So that way I can make a recommendation accordingly to the type of information to be released, just so nothing is misinterpreted when it's out there or so forth. And we talked about this before a little bit, but the cancellation policy, there's like a 24-hour notice that's required for a session to be canceled. Otherwise, the fee is $100. Um, and our fees for the sessions are billed at $120 an hour. But I know that that's not always affordable, so I do offer a sliding scale for the first 4 sessions. And fees are payable at the end of each session, and the client's financially responsible for each session, whether it's putting it through third-party billing or paying upfront at the end of a session. And then if you have like your insurance information, you can just leave it at the front desk and our secretary can deal with it, or you can fill it out yourself and then hand it to her. But either way, that's something that can be dealt with. So for your information and your records, both your counseling and financial records are usually kept to a duration of 7 years, after which point all records will be destroyed completely. Yeah, and if you have any disputes or complaints, then you can let me know and we can do our best to work through them. But if you don't feel comfortable letting me know, then you can file a complaint through the Illinois Licensing Board, which can be reached at the number or email that's in the statement that I sent over.
Great.
Yeah, so now that we have that, we've gone through that, we can get into it. So the first session is usually like an intake interview. So you tell me a bit about you, and we go through the presenting problem at hand, and I get to learn some background information. So sometimes I will be asking like direct questions, but this is the only time I will be doing that. The rest of it will be a little more like free flow. But this time it just has to be a little more directive so I can learn more specific information. If that's okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will be taking notes as well. So if you see me like writing something, I'm not just scribbling away. I'm taking notes for later.
Perfect.
So I know you said that your name is Arlie.
Mm-hmm.
How do you identify?
She, her pronouns, female, white, straight.
Okay, cool. And what nationality are you? Or ethnicity, or both?
A little bit of everything, like in Europe, like English, Scottish, a little bit of Irish, I think, maybe German. Nothing
Okay.
really specific.
Is there one that you identify with more than others?
I guess like English.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to put it out there that I am from like a Canadian East Indian background, so that we might have like different views on things or different like cultural values. And that's totally okay. I'm very open to learning more about the mixed European English background. But if there's ever a point where like you don't feel like I'm understanding something or you want to explain something to me, feel free to stop me and let me know. And then we can move forward to get towards to that together.
Perfect.
And can you maybe like tell me a little bit about yourself, like maybe 2 or 3 events that are important from your past history?
Sure, yeah. So my parents got divorced a few years ago. They were together for a long time, but my mom was just really unhappy with the relationship. So she left my dad and kind of took me with. And she has since remarried to a new man, but my dad has remained single. And I recently moved from Arizona to Washington, and I'm currently living with my dad for the first time in a long time. I was living with my mom for a while, but her husband is a baseball player, so they travel a lot, and so it's just hard to maintain that kind of lifestyle. So I'm moving in with I recently moved in with my dad and started at a new school in a new town. So just trying to adjust to that.
Well, that's a lot of change.
Yes.
How has the adjustment been?
It's been okay. It's weird because it's a really small town, and so people kind of can tell when someone is new. So I've been sticking out, which I really hate. I'm super introverted and I don't really like talking to people that much. And so people coming up to me and asking who I am and blah blah blah, it, like kind of stresses me out. But people are like generally nice. I guess they're kind of nosy. There's been one guy that it was really weird at first. Thought he didn't like me. Like it seemed like he hated me. Like the first day I came to school, he like acted really weird, and then
Oh,
he was gone for a while after that. But then when he came back, he like wants to be friends and like hang out. And I think we're kind of dating, but it's really confusing.
oh, that seems like it was a quick jump. How did that, when he came, so you said when he came back, you kind of want to be friends again?
Yeah, so he approached me and like started asking me questions about myself. It was kind of weird at first, and I kind of confronted him and I was like, you know, it was you acted really weird when I first got here, and now you want to be my friend. Like this is weird. And he didn't really have an explanation. He seems kind of an oddball, and his whole family is kind of weird. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on, but yeah, it's an interesting situation.
Yeah, how do you feel about it?
Um, it's okay for now. Like I think he's cute. I think he's fun and I like spending time with him, but I've heard kind of weird things from the other kids at school that like his family's really weird and that like his family does this like weird matchmaking thing where like they'll adopt
Oh,
kids and the kids like date each other. So it just seems like a weird family, but I like him and I want to continue to get to know him.
yeah, I like the open-mindedness that you're keeping with that. Have
Yeah.
you met his family yet?
Very briefly, just his siblings. I haven't met his parents yet. Well, I guess I did meet his dad. I had to go to the ER because I almost got in a car crash, but
Oh,
he like pushed me out of the way, but it was really strange. But so his dad works at the hospital, so I met his dad at the ER, which I guess was not the best place to meet him, but it happened.
that sounds like it could have been pretty traumatic with the car accident.
Yeah, it was weird. I was just standing outside my car, like getting into it, and like it was icy out, and this guy that was turning the corner just kind of like skid and almost hit me, but then Edward pushed me out of the way. So it happened really fast. I'm having a hard time remembering everything about it, and I didn't have any injuries, so
Okay, well that's good at least. How has it been like mentally? Has it been like weighing you down or
not really. I think it's fine. Nothing bad happened. My dad was really pissed off at the other kid driver, but it really wasn't his fault. It just was icy out. So it
Mhm.
really freaked my dad out. And then of course my mom is calling me all the time now to make sure I'm fine, but like really nothing happened. It was yeah, it was fine.
So how is the relationship with your dad now that you've moved in with him?
It's interesting. I haven't spent a lot of time with him since I was in like middle school, so we're still kind of getting to know each other. He's a cop in town and he kind of has his own like routine. So, you know, we go out to the diner a lot. He doesn't really cook. He spends a lot of time like watching sports on TV and stuff. So, I'm pretty much on my own when I'm at home. He's really introverted like me. We don't talk much, but I kind of like it that way. I don't
Hmm.
like I don't feel the need to share all of my personal details with him, and I think he respects that. So it's good.
Yeah, and how was it while you were growing up?
It was fine. I could tell that my parents like didn't really get along that much, but I kind of just tried to ignore it and go about my
Mhm.
time as a kid. But yeah, I mean, they would fight sometimes, nothing like explosive or physical or anything, but they would argue and you know, I could just tell that my mom was unhappy there, but my dad wasn't willing to do anything. So it put kind of some pressure on me to like, you know, spend time with my mom and like hang out with her and keep her happy. But ultimately, when they got divorced, like it was for the best and it was as amicable as those things can go. Like these, you know,
Okay.
they can still interact with each other and like talk when it's relating to me. But other than that, they don't really stay in touch.
Okay. And that's been an okay process, I guess?
Yeah, it's fine. It's been, you know,
Mm.
a couple years now and it works out fine.
Okay, well that's promising to hear. You said they used to fight. Was it in front of you or could you just hear it kind of like through the walls?
Yeah, more that, like hearing it through the walls and stuff.
Yeah, that must have been stressful.
Yeah, it was, but you know, I feel like especially when I was growing up and I was talking with my friends about it, like it seems like a lot of kids' parents would fight sometimes. So
Yeah.
it didn't stress me out too bad. It was fine.
And were you, or well, not were you, are you still an only child or did you have other siblings?
No, just me.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess there was that extra pressure to be close to your mom and be there for her, right?
Yeah, and she had like some acquaintances, but she never had like really true friends, and so yeah, she and I would spend a lot of time together.
Hmm. And are you still managing to stay close now that you guys aren't living together?
Yeah, we talk on the phone as often as we can. It's a little harder since now she's traveling more and she's really
Mhm.
bad with her phone. Like she loses her charger all the time. And so sometimes it's hard to get through to her. She'll call me from payphones sometimes. But yeah, it's fine. I told her about the boy and everything and she was excited to hear about that. So yeah.
Is she gonna come? Does she visit you a lot, or is it kind of just like sporadically?
She hasn't visited me, but she
Mhm.
offered that I could meet them somewhere like along the road if it makes
Mhm.
sense. So likely I would do that. She probably wouldn't want to come back to Forks just because like she has a lot of bad memories there. So
Oh yeah, fair enough. Yeah. Um, and so you talked a little bit about your childhood. Could you tell me a little bit more?
yeah, it was fine. It was like all right. We were pretty like middle class family. My mom didn't work, but my dad did as a cop. So it was pretty chill. Like he has some friends and like I would hang out with one of his friends' sons, Jacob, and we got along pretty well. And I've actually reconnected with him since coming back to Forks.
Mhm.
So that was fine. And I've always been quiet and introverted, so I never really bothered myself with too many friends. I just kind of would like do my own thing.
Um, and did you have any like history of illness or anything?
No, nothing diagnosed. No.
Okay. Was there anything like you said nothing physically? Was there anything mentally at all?
No, this is my first time in therapy, so I've never been diagnosed or anything like that.
Yeah, for sure. So what brings you to therapy this time? Like, why now?
Mostly all the changes that I'm going through, and like I'm feeling a lot of anxiety and stress about this whole situation with Edward. Like it's confusing, and I feel myself like thinking about it a lot and getting in my head about it, and like generally
Mhm.
feeling kind of anxious. So yeah, I thought it might help to talk to somebody.
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you made the choice to come here. Um, so you said you are quiet and introverted. Does that mean you like get in your head a lot, or you overthink things?
Yeah, I would say I overthink things pretty much all the time.
Yeah.
Just yeah, because I don't do a lot of social things, so then a lot of my time that I'm at home, I like to read and like do stuff like that. But
Hmm.
I definitely am a little bit of an overthinker.
And how do you? Is there a way that you like calm yourself down when that happens?
Usually I'll try and distract myself like by reading or maybe listening to music. Sometimes like I'll call my mom to talk about it. My new friends that I've made in town, like they're more social than me, so they'll invite me out to do stuff. So sometimes I will. Like I went to go see a movie with two of my girlfriends the other day, and that was fun. But yeah, I mostly just read or listen to music.
Hmm. Is there a specific type of thing, like a specific type of media that calms you down, especially, or is it just anything really?
Really anything, yeah. I don't like stuff that's like super modern, so I'll read a lot of stuff from like the 80s or whatever. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay, well that's good to know that you have like a kind of self-care routine.
Mhm.
And what about, is there a point where the overthinking ever gets like too much?
Um, Sometimes I have trouble sleeping or I have like bad dreams. Like I feel like I will have like stressful dreams a lot. So that's when it kind of bothers me the most. And then I feel like tired because I'm not sleeping well. So yeah, I would guess that.
Can you tell me more about your bad dreams that you mentioned?
Yeah, I just will have like it's hard to remember them sometimes when I wake up, so I don't know exactly what's happening in them, but I kind of wake up like feeling anxious and stressed, and like it even got to a point where my dad reached out to his friend and got me a dream catcher because my
Oh,
dad,
wow. Mhm.
yeah, my dad was like, maybe this will help. Like nothing else is helping, so let's try this. And my friend Jacob lives on the reservation, so his dad like got one for me. But yeah, it hasn't been helping that much really. So it's hard to remember the content of the dreams, but I just wake up feeling like really, really anxious and stressed, and like it's hard to fall back asleep sometimes too.
Yeah, and I would imagine that once you wake up feeling like that, it's easy for that to spill into the rest of your day.
Yeah, it's definitely not a good way to start the day when you wake up feeling like that. And then, yeah, it kind of makes me like a little bit more on edge for the rest of the day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really understandable. And how long have these dreams been going on for?
Really ever since I got back to Forks and like started getting involved with Edward, it's when it like life got a little bit more stressful, I guess, and it's like manifesting that way.
Hmm. Um, so it sounds like there's a bit of a like a juxtaposition going on between what you like about Edward and how he makes you feel.
Hmm.
Can you maybe tell me a bit more about him as a person?
Yeah, he's really mysterious, like hard to read, and very intense. So it, like I said before, like it seemed like he really hated me when I first got to school, and then he disappeared for a couple of days. Him and his entire family did actually. And then
Oh,
when they got back, like he like wanted to talk to me all of a sudden, and it was really confusing. He's my lab partner, so like we were
oh,
kind of
okay.
forced to talk to each other as well. So, but like he even talked to me after class and like was asking me questions about myself and like what how I like Fork so far and why I left Arizona. So it seemed like he like wanted to get to know me, which was endearing, but he wouldn't answer any of my questions about him, which was like a little concerning. And just like from what I've heard from other people at school with his family being weird, and some of them have even like mentioned that potentially like they're kind of dangerous or unpredictable. So but I like spending time with them, and he makes me feel really special. Like when I'm with him, it feels like I'm like the only person in the whole world because he seems to be really focused on me. So I don't know if that's a good thing necessarily or like a little bit possessive of a thing, but yeah, it's still fairly new, but so I'm not exactly sure how to handle it.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it's pretty new territory, so maybe, yeah, it'll be good to see how it goes, and then maybe take it from there. Do you have any past relationship history at all?
Not really, no. This is kind of my first thing I've ever because I'm so introverted, I don't really think about dating that much. Like I just don't care that much about it. So I would never be one to make the first move. And since I'm so quiet and stuff, I feel like in Arizona nobody cared to like talk to me. So yeah, this is my first like dating experience really.
Okay. So it sounds like it might bother you a bit that he is so mysterious. How does he, you said that he doesn't really answer questions about himself?
Yeah, so I'll like ask him something about like him or his family. Like I noticed when he came back from his trip, like his eyes like looked like a slightly different color, and so I was just wondering like what that was about. Like I know some people have like eyes that can look different in the light, but this seemed like really different to me. So I like asked him about it, and he like made up something about like the lights in the building being weird. I don't know. It just seemed like he was like not wanting to actually answer my question and like open up to me.
Hmm. Has he been able to be vulnerable at any point so far?
Not yet. It doesn't seem so. I know it's still new and we're still getting to know each other, but yeah, he won't. I mean, he'll tell me a little bit about his family. Like, I knew that his dad was a doctor before I met him,
Hmm.
and like, he's told me a little bit about his siblings, but not much. And I don't know anything about like his mom or like, I think they lived somewhere else before they lived in Forks, but it's like hard to tell.
Okay. Um, and you said that he makes you feel special at the same time. So can you tell me a bit more about that?
Yeah, I just feel like when we are together, like he's really focused on me and like wants to learn a lot about me, which feels good because like I feel like sometimes people don't really care to know much about other people and it's just like going through the motions, but he seems to be really interested in like me and how I work and why I came here and like wants to get to know like my interests and stuff. So that feels nice and I've never had that before. So it's kind of exciting to
Hmm.
when asking those questions and stuff like that. So yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like something that would be very refreshing almost.
Yeah.
So it sounds like it's good in the sense that he makes you feel focused on, but at the same time, not knowing much about him is potentially stressful.
Yeah, because it just feels like now he has all this information about me and I don't know anything about him, and
Hmm.
it's a little one-sided, and I hope that I can continue to like get him to open up to me, because it's I feel like that's important before you like enter a relationship with someone, if that's even where this is going. It's hard to tell, but um yeah, I just don't know that much about him and I would like to learn more.
Yeah, maybe that's something. What does he say when you ask him questions? Does he just change the subject?
Yeah, he'll normally like come up with to to me feels like kind of a bullshit answer, and then yeah, he'll change the subject or like turn it back on me and like ask me something about myself, or yeah.
Hmm.
Or one time he literally just like walked away and I was like, okay. So
Oh,
yeah.
well, that's new.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, well, maybe that's something to work towards. Maybe um, the next time that you guys see each other, you can communicate more on having like a two-way information sharing session, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I could try and bring it up and see if he would be open to that.
Yeah, or maybe I wouldn't say be confrontational in any sense, but I would say maybe just even just ask him why he isn't willing to share because I know sounds like it's bothering you.
Yeah, I would like to get to know him, and like, my dad's a cop. He like knows everything. He hears everything. So he's already been asking me about Edward, and I feel like I just don't have any information to like tell him. Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
you can be like he's tall.
Right. Exactly.
Has your dad met him yet?
No, not yet.
Hmm. Um, and how often do you guys see each other?
Well, every day in biology class, and then he started trying to like, or he started seeing me on the weekends now. So like, we'll go out and do something on the weekend. But yeah, so almost
Um,
every day, I guess.
and what kind of stuff do you guys do when you go out together?
We'll like walk on nature trails because there's so many of those like here in Washington, and so we'll do that sometimes and just like kind of like wander around and talk. He doesn't really seem to eat that much, so we haven't like gone out to eat or anything. But yeah, or like sometimes we'll study together.
Okay. It sounds like you guys have a nice companionship going on.
Yeah, it's fun for now. I'm just a little confused on where it's going, which is fine if he just wants to be friends. I guess that's fine too. But yeah.
Yeah, it might be good to clarify at some point just to kind of help your own um, sense of self.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe those are some things we can work on. We can have some, because I know we are going to have some long-term goals to help your stress and anxiety and maybe find the root of those dreams as well.
Hmm.
And for now, we can have some short-term goals. And for next week, maybe you can try um, talking to him about what the um, sorry, you can try talking to him about um, opening up more and sharing more information, and maybe see where that goes.
Yeah, I would like that because I feel like the people in town that I've talked to, or just like my friends that I've met that like, can see there's an interest between us, like they seem to be really like skeptical of him and his family. So that's like freaking me out a little bit too.
Mhm. Yeah, I would imagine when it's hard not to care about other people's opinions sometimes,
Yeah.
and especially since there's no, from what you've mentioned, there's no like um, positive opinion. They're all just kind of neutral or he's dangerous or
Yeah. And like everyone can admit that he's like gorgeous. So like
Mhm.
I think sometimes it's like a little bit of jealousy, especially from my girlfriend.
Okay.
When I first told them about it, they were like, "Oh yeah, like Edward never dates like girls from school. Like he's never dated anyone before." And so I'm wondering if like they're a little bit jealous that like he's into me.
Yeah, that would probably that could definitely be part of it. And also I would assume that adds more to the feeling of being special.
Yeah, a little bit, I think.
Yeah, I actually want to go back to your dreams a bit. Have you, you said you had the dream catcher before. Is there anything else that you've ever taken to give you like dreamless sleeps, or have you taken any like melatonin or anything?
No, I haven't tried that. My dad doesn't like believe in medicine really, so he kind of thought maybe we could try this first, and like his friends suggested it to him as um, like more of a holistic way, I guess, of trying to treat it. But yeah, I don't think it's working.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, it was worth a try, totally.
Yeah.
Are you open to trying anything else?
I would try melatonin. I've heard that that works pretty well for people, at least for falling asleep. But do you know if it helps at all with staying asleep? Because that seems to be more my issue of like I wake up with the stress and then I can't like stay asleep.
Oh, okay. Um, I don't know the full effect of it. I know I tried it once and it kept me asleep for about 4 hours, and then I wasn't able to sleep for the rest of the night. So I don't know if that's the best thing for you. But I know there are a couple sleep remedies out there that are more holistic as well. So maybe look into those. We can reconvene about those at the next session as well.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but for now, I think since we are nearing the end of our session, maybe um, we can focus on our short-term goals for now. So maybe we can, for next session, you can come back with having talked to Edward, if you're comfortable with that, um, about sharing more information. And for now, maybe you can look more into sleep remedies that are more holistic before trying any kind of medication. And maybe we can talk more about what are causing the sleep problems
Mhm.
at the next session as well. How does that sound?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, perfect. Does the same time next week work for you?
Yeah,
Okay, cool. Well, it was really good talking to you. I'm so glad that you came in.
thank you.
Um, yeah, and I hope it goes well when you talk to him.
Me too.
And I will see you next week at the same time.
Sounds good. Thank you.